Standing by, the Terry and Ted podcast is sponsored by the UPS Store Canada.
Hi, I'm Terry DiMonte. Look, that's Ted Bird. Hello, Ted Bird.
How are you?
I'm fine and dandy. Thank
You've
you very
made
much.
notes again.
I have. I've taken
Become
notes. As
quite
a matter
diligent.
of fact, I've actually purchased a notebook.
Wow.
With pages of notes. How about that?
And a pen.
And I also have a pen.
You see, back in the 20th century, people would actually write things out longhand with these small devices known as pens.
On this episode of the Standing By podcast, we have a very special guest. So we're very excited about it, but we want to cover a few things first, including our thank you to the UPS Store Canada. The UPS Store Canada now with over 400 locations all across the country. And when I say all across the country, I mean it. There was a store near me in Langley. There was a store near me in Calgary. There are stores in Brandon. There are stores in Drumheller, stores in Winnipeg, stores in Thunder Bay. I'm thinking about my drive across the country.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter where you live, you'll find one near you. All you have to do is go to the upsstore.ca. They'll help you with your small business. They'll help you even if you don't have a business. I was looking for extra boxes when we moved. And I went to the UPS store, and they said, what kind of box do you need? How big do you need it? Do you need packing peanuts? Do you need us to pack anything? Do you need bubble wrap? Do you need stickers? Do you need tape? All of the things that you could think of, whether it's trying to move something out of the house, send something across the country, they handle it all.
Small business solutions
Yes.
as well,
Yep.
if you run a small business. And I love the fact that you can get your passport photograph
Yes.
taken at the UPS store.
Yeah.
Do they let you smile?
I'm not sure what the rules are.
Are you allowed to smile
I'm
yet
not even sure
with your passport?
I got one of those 10-year passports,
Yeah.
so I don't
So do I.
remember.
But that was a hard and fast rule. No
Yes.
smiling.
Yeah, absolutely.
You had to. It was like
Yeah.
a mugshot.
That's
your
right.
Passport.
Everybody must look like a terrorist.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
The UPS Store Canada have been sponsors of the podcast since we got going, and we're very, very grateful. If you need help with your small business or you got to send something to your son across the country at university, visit a UPS store. Go to the upsstore.ca. I wanted to read this letter, Ted. This was I got a note from Bill Brownstein last week saying,
Right.
the letters are still coming in about the article that was in the Gazette about me moving back to Quebec. And this one I thought was terrific, and if you'll indulge me.
It's not going to make me cry, is
No,
it?
no, no,
Okay,
no, no,
good.
no, no. This is a letter to the editor that was, it's online. You can read it
okay.
online. And it came from Lori Weber in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia. Dartmouth. She's in Dartmouth. Should I stay or should I go now? Seems to be the Anglo-Montreal theme of the day. I myself chose the latter. However, like Terry DiMonte's departure, mine has not been without challenges. Reestablishing a sense of belonging is no easy task. Being new in a place where people have established lives can lead to a deep feeling of isolation. You are an outsider and possibly always will be. I too miss Montreal, not the potholes or the politics, but the place itself and all it has to offer. I have family here, and yes, beautiful beaches to visit, but few connections. Some, yes, and they're growing slowly, but I will never be able to recreate what I left behind in my beloved city of Montreal. I feel its absence every day. Do I regret leaving? No, it was the right choice for me. Would I advise people to leave? No. Not unless you have a strong personal reason for doing so, or at the end of how much political poppycock you can handle. And I fell into both categories. If you do leave, prepare to miss more than the bagels. Lori Weber, Dartmouth, Nova Scotia.
Wow, what a beautifully articulated letter that is.
Big time. It gave me goosebumps when I read it, Lori. If somehow you hear about us reading the letter, I thought it was so beautifully put.
Yeah.
And it should give people who are considering leaving pause, I would imagine.
I'm surprised and disappointed as a Maritimer that she doesn't feel like she's being embraced down east, because people down east are renowned for their friendliness.
Yeah.
So that surprises me. I am not surprised, however, that she misses Montreal.
Yeah, no, of course not. And I get it. It resonated with me because it's one of the things we covered when we talked about me leaving and coming back. Ted's nodding, by the way.
Yeah. I'm reflecting.
Yes, if you've downloaded the podcast.
It's interesting.
Ted is nodding.
Yeah, I was talking to my mom last night, and we were talking about social media and how everybody reacts now. Nobody reflects anymore.
Yeah.
Nobody takes, and she said when her and my dad were in university, she went to Mount Allison University in Sackville, Nova Scotia, and my dad went to York University, the York Conservatory of Music in Toronto, and they stayed connected by writing letters to each other.
Yeah.
So they would hear from each other every 7 to 10 days.
Yeah.
So there was time to reflect and to think about what you wanted to say. Now with social media, people don't reflect anymore. They only react.
When was the last time you sat and wrote a letter?
I wrote a thank you note to Simon Dingley and his wife, Jeannie Lee, because they hosted me at their home for Sam's graduation when Sam graduated back in the spring.
That's the only time now that I write stuff, because I am also a thank you letter guy.
I think it's important.
Yeah.
And Simon noticed that.
Yes, of course, because it's rare today.
Yeah.
And
to put pen to paper.
Yes, yeah. And what I've noticed is my handwriting has fallen apart.
I don't write, I print.
Oh, you do?
Oh, yeah, I can't write.
Really?
Yeah, I can't. You wouldn't be able to understand. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to understand anything I wrote. I print it.
That's true. I think I remember this pre-computer when we were working together, and you'd hand me something and I'd say, what the hell does this say? You're right about that.
Yeah, it's a lost art.
Speaking of social media, I want to remind you that we now have an email account, standingbythepodcast@gmail.com. So would you like to tell your public transit story? We have public transit stories today.
Yeah, I took the bus to the studio today. The studio is at Chabanel and Saint Laurent. I live around Hymas and St. John's in Point Claire. And I know now how the Germans felt 3 months into Operation Barbarossa when they realized they weren't going to defeat the Soviet Union before the winter. That's the kind of trek it was.
A bit of a go, eh? What? So, how long did it actually take you?
It took about an hour and a half.
Oh, that's not too bad.
That's
not too bad.
Yeah, the way back though, I'm concerned about the way back because I got to take the Crosstown 171 on Henri Bourassa.
Traffic.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be a shit show. But anyway, hopefully I'll be able to drive. Hopefully I can remain epilepsy seizure free for another 2 months,
and I'll be able to drive in November. Your ticket back. Yeah, and it was all spurred on by me. I felt badly about that when I told you.
Don't.
My wife and I are in the Laurentians now, and we have access to Saint Jerome train station. And she tried the train last week, and she said, "Why don't you try taking the train?" And I was like, "I don't want to take a train." And she said, No, there's a stop at Chabanel. And the studio is on Chabanel. So there is free parking, which I don't want to get into it because
this is at the station in Saint Jerome.
Yeah, we have a guest coming, so I don't want to get into the madness of no parking at Kirkland for the REM whenever it gets finished. But so there's free parking, and you get onto Twain. And an hour later, a little less than an hour later, maybe about an hour, I was off the train at Chabanel. I walked up the street. I stopped at Gentili Cafe. I had a cappuccino.
Had a pretty face.
And here I was, and it was. I'm sorry to say, it was relatively easy, Ted.
Is it what they call the EXO train?
Yes.
Yeah,
that's right.
I've taken that from Point Claire to St. Anne de Bellevue when I go out to St. Anne de Bellevue sometimes to go to Cunningham's for chicken wings. Very comfortable.
Yeah,
Convenient,
I was
comfortable.
Yes, I was pleasantly pleased.
Yeah.
What? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Nothing wrong with the EXO train.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
And although it's double-decker cars on the train, and on the bottom you can have a party, but at the top it's called the Tranquillité,
the quiet zone.
Right.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of people who didn't understand that, so we had to move cars. But I think we're going to become public transit.
Well, make sure you
advocates.
take advantage of your age because I travel for free in the island of Montreal transit zone.
Well, I have to wait for my Medicare and my license, and you know how much fun that bureaucracy is. So I haven't got that yet. But as soon as I get that, I'm going for my grandpa pass at at the Opus or Exxon or whatever. And one more thing I wanted to mention, we have a special guest, so we don't want to keep him waiting. I started to watch the Canadians on Crave last night. The behind the scenes of the rebuild, the Montreal Canadiens.
Oh.
So it's on Crave, and it's much like, it's supposed to be modeled after like Hard Knocks. You know what I mean?
The NFL behind the scenes.
Yeah, the behind the scenes.
Who does it? Who are the producers behind it?
I don't know, and I have to find out because number one, they got George Stroumboulopoulos to narrate it. Couldn't find a Montrealer.
I think he's a Habs fan, though.
He's a Habs fan. He's a Habs fan, and he's a longtime professional.
Yeah.
Mate.
Yeah.
Come on.
I understand.
Right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is so far, and I shouldn't comment because we're only halfway through the first episode, so far, not great storytelling.
Really?
Yeah. I'm being very critical and unfair because I'm only halfway through the first episode, and there's appearances by Tony Marinaro and a couple of the people that you recognize around the team, Jeff Molson, of course, and but they haven't really got into the nitty gritty yet.
Okay,
a lot of behind the scenes in the offices at the Bell Center, so interesting. But I thought I would mention, if you're a Habs fan, it's up, it's on Crave, and I forget how many episodes it is. And I love George Stroumboulopoulos. He's a great broadcaster, and he works for Apple now, and I think lives in Los Angeles. But my immediate reaction was,
how about a Montrealer who lives in Montreal?
That's what I thought. I mean, they're broadcast professionals.
Yeah, there's more
of
a connection there.
I would think so.
Yeah.
But that's nitpicker.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm nitpicker.
You wanted the gig, eh?
I would have taken the gig.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think I can read.
Yeah.
Shall we get to our guest?
Let's.
Shall we talk about him now so we don't cry when he gets in here?
No.
Okay.
We'll just be full on blubbering once he's in here.
Okay, quick. This is new to the podcast. We're going to take a little bit of a break. We'll be back in about 15 seconds with our very special guest. We're very excited. We have a very, very special guest that we met, I don't know.
I would say about
how many
30
years ago? 30 years ago?
Late
2001.
Really, eh?
Very, 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 very funny, very, very nice, kind man from Australia. Joe Avati is our special guest. And we must.
You've got to say the crocodile hunt.
we must let
Steve Irwin looks. He looks pretty good for a guy who's been dead for 15 years.
We have to. Let's just get the gushing out of the way. We met Joe a long, long time ago when we were on, arguably a bigger platform.
Well, it was when I first heard of Joe in the 1990s.
Yes.
You remember Walter and Tony, who ran that Italian restaurant on De La Savannah? It was Walter who said to me, when Joe Avati comes to town, you've got to get him on the radio and you've got to go and see him. Walter's an Italian chef from Montreal.
Yeah.
And and that was in the 90s, Joe.
Yeah.
That was it would have been the end of the 90s or early 2000s because that's when I broke out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I came here 2001 the first time to
Montreal.
Montreal.
Okay. Well, then it must have been. I thought it was the 90s, but it must have been 2001. Then if those
anyway,
were shows here.
we had Joe in the studio, and unsurprisingly, it went swimmingly well.
Yeah.
And Ted and I were famous in the creative community for having longer interviews. So when people came to our studio, if we were having fun, we were like, "Fuck it, you can just stay, and we'll just keep doing it."
Yeah.
And Joe seemed to like that and remembered it. And years ago, when we became, years later, when we became nobodies, he was still very kind to us. He drove out to Hudson, you told me.
Actually, it was the radio station was on Papineau at the time.
Even worse.
The Hudson radio station. He came to the Hudson radio station on Papineau to say hi to me. Last year.
Right.
That was nice, Joe.
Oh, yeah. I never forget, people who help me, and I mean, it's not only that. It's our our relationship, our friendship, and the rapport. It's always been great. You guys get what I do, and you get the gags, and it always helps. When you got someone who's interviewing who laughs as opposed to at the punchline.
Yeah,
because I'm used to timing, knowing that there's supposed to be a laugh there.
Yeah.
So
or somebody who goes, Yes, that's very funny.
Yeah.
So we're a good room, are we, Joe?
Yeah, you're a great room.
Excellent.
The two of you are better than some of the 500-seater venues that I've performed at.
Joe Avati is, for some reason or another, we started, Ted and I actually did research for this interview. I don't know what overcame us.
Well, I already knew Joe and who he was and what he did, but I wanted to get up to speed.
But I reacquainted myself with some of the stuff Joe's been up to since we saw him last. And international star is one way to put it. I don't know. Is there a country that you're not famous in, Joe?
Oh, there's plenty of countries I'm
really
not famous in. Yeah, I mean,
like what? Like where?
Well, you're famous in any country with an Italian diaspora.
Yeah.
Yes, they know Joe because
Yes.
Joe is an Italian Australian.
Yes,
and he is well. Obviously, he's famous at home in Australia, but you also do well in the U.S., in Canada, England,
Scotland. Italy now?
Yeah.
I've just done Italy for the first time. That was interesting.
Belgium.
So you just did Italy for the first time?
Ever.
And so entirely Italian shows?
No, I did my show in English.
Really?
So the show was four. So I did four shows. So one was in Milan and one was in Rome. And they were for expats who are living in Rome. So there's Canadians that came, Americans, Australians, but they're also Italian nationals who like what I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Down in Calabria, which is my parents, where they're from, there was some expats, but there was also a few cousins that came. But they didn't understand English.
Oh.
So that show didn't go down too well. I mean, I did my show, but, there's a lot of cousins going, hey, it's...
Have you or could you do a show entirely in
probably,
Italian?
Yeah, well, okay, so...
Or would you you'd have to work hard on reworking it, like you'd have to...
Well, the punchlines, no. It's because I used to do it. When I first came here, you had to really understand Italian.
Yeah.
And more specifically, the southern Italian dialects of Sicilian or Calabrese to get the gags. Now, it's all in English. So I could go back and do it like that, but it's the build-up that I'm used to doing in English and the punchline in Italian. The punchline's easy, it's the build-up.
Yeah.
And then, because my Italian's not perfect, my Calabrese is perfect.
Okay.
So, yeah, but
it's that really different, eh, Joe?
Yeah.
It's really, like, I know that because from my father's side.
Yeah. Where are they from, your side?
Caserta.
Oh, yeah,
so
right. Yeah.
Down in just around Naples.
Yes.
So I guess you would say that's Neapolitan.
Yeah. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And my dad, when I took him to Italy one year, when we went north, he was like, I have no idea what they're saying.
And I was married into a family from La Marche.
Oh, right, yeah. Okay. So, but even in Sicily, let's say, or even in Calabria, between the towns, from where my side is from and where my wife's side's from, they say totally different things for the same meaning, and so you got to know those things. But, you don't, these days in Italy, you don't need to do it in Italian.
No.
There's plenty of English-speaking people. But this is the thing, though, I've never copped abuse as I have when I went viral in Italy. Because the Italians in Italy, that's why I've never done shows there. They've never liked what I do. Because they're like, we don't want you pretend Italians from 10,000 kilometres away taking the piss out of us.
But you're not pretend Italian. What is that?
To them, because we're the children of immigrants. So firstly, the immigrants were the rejects that they sent out of Italy. And we're the children of the rejects. So... that's the way they look at ourselves.
There's an element of snobbery there.
Big time, yeah. This is where I first learned about you. It was you who told me about the story about how, when people were spilling out of Italy, there was a whole chunk that went to North America and a whole chunk that went to Australia.
Right,
and didn't your family toy with one or the other? And
Yeah. Well, so there was one who was in a line to go to Canada.
Yes.
He saw a compari of his in another line. He goes, "Where are you going?" He goes, "I'm going to Australia." So he jumped the line. Ended up going to Australia.
Yeah.
Wow.
Vince Tassone, who cuts your hair, tells that same story.
Yeah.
His dad was like, it could have gone one way or the other.
That's right.
And is that why they say you can get the best coffee in the world in Australia?
Well, we do. It's the best coffee culture in the world now. You're not a serious cafe unless you got a roaster, behind you, or you got someone privately roasting your coffee. We got a great coffee culture in Australia.
You got a nice honor in Rome too. I saw online. That was a beauty. You must have been so pleased.
Yeah,
Joe.
I know. I had no idea. Look, the Italian government honored me. Look, to get anything from the Italian government is pretty good. so I was happy to get that.
Yeah.
But it was an honour in recognition of my work for the Italian community around the world. And you know, now I didn't. My dad was there too, and the guy actually gave me an Italian flag. I thought, that's nice. My dad was in tears because apparently, when the Italian government give you the Italian flag, it's a big deal.
So now, is that a form of acceptance?
Sort of the ultimate compliment
kind
of thing?
Yeah. But he still didn't tell me he was proud of me.
Really?
No chance.
Come on, really?
No way. There's no way in the world. I'll talk about it in the show. You guys will see because you guys are going to come to the show. There's no way in the world my dad would say that he's proud of me. No way.
No kidding.
No, he would tell your son or your daughter.
Yeah. He would tell my son or my daughter. He tells them that he loves them. And not me. No chance.
That's a funny thing, eh? With
they just can't do it.
That generation.
But your dad's not like that, is he?
No. My dad isn't like that. He got softer as he got older.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to me is that generation, they don't do it with their kids, but with their grandkids, they're like it's a whole other person almost.
I really want to talk about it, but I do it in my show.
Yeah.
And I want you guys to see it because it's a big part of it. Because I've got my son now and it's
How old are your kids, Joe?
So I've got an 11-year-old in Canada. I'm not allowed to say where because of
very good
court orders.
Yes.
My son,
okay.
I don't know why. I mean, my son.
Acrimony.
My son's 3. People, you can see him on. He's on Instagram all the time. I say he does sound checks and everything. Yeah. People freak out that I put him on Instagram. They're like, "Aren't you worried about what?" Yeah. They go, "Stalkers." I go, "Well, he's not going to always look like that."
I'm not saying at this time he'll be at the corner of this street and this street.
So my kids are 11 and 3, and and I find myself becoming my dad. Like the way that my wife's a millennial.
Yeah.
So she's like, we've got, if there's a heater in the house, right? And my son goes to touch, like, hey, don't touch it because you're going to burn yourself. And my wife's like, no, let him touch it the first time. He'll learn. and I kind of want to go that way, but at least I know with my way, he'll still have enough skin to be able to give a fingerprint, right? Because these millennial parents, and we've not the excuse me.
That's okay.
I've got a bit of a cough. But it's not that we fight, but it's so different because I'm never home. So my wife does a lot of the disciplining him, and it's so different.
But are you of the school? And I know the answer to this question. You're not of the school of my kid is my buddy. No.
Look, friends. Yeah. We were never friends. Never friends. These kids, they do that. That hi mom, hi dad, the fist pump.
The fist pump. No,
when I was a kid, if I saw this coming at me, it's a different story.
It wasn't a greeting.
No, it wasn't a greeting. No,
it was an attention getter.
That's actually a good line. I might use that. Look, you see. Okay, so here's the thing. So my dad wasn't my mate, but see, our dads, and I'm sure this was with you guys, and even with you, Ted. Like, what my dad had to do was look. Okay, the look scared the shit out of me. Okay, so now my dad might have hit me just maybe once or twice, so I didn't. But that look scared the hell out of me. Why does the look today not work? See, you would think that, let's say my dad hit me a lot, okay, and I did something and he looked at me, and I knew that after the look was going to come a beating, then I would shit myself. But there wasn't that. There wasn't. All you had to do was look. But now you look at kids like that.
Yeah.
They laugh at you. They're like, "What are you looking at? What do you want? What are you trying to get at?"
Yeah.
And it's because I realised, because I throw myself on the floor, I do characters. I play with my kid the way my dad never played with me.
Right.
So when I look at him and go, he starts laughing. He thinks it's another character.
Yeah.
That's all that is.
We raised them differently than we were raised.
Yeah.
And my dad was like that too. He never raised his hand to us, and he never had to. All he had, and his look was the glasses would be down on the end of the nose, and he'd look over top of the glasses.
Yeah, right.
And he'd go, "What did you say?"
Yeah.
Nothing.
Isn't it? It's you who said your father could move you across the room with his eyes.
That's right. He could. He would just go like this. That's all he had to do. And all of a sudden you felt something grab you from the back of the thing and just teleport you to the other side of the room. And it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Do you use the Italian stun gun?
Yeah.
What's that?
I love this. I was watching the other day online,
right.
and I'd completely forgotten about it.
Yeah. So the Italian stun gun, when you go to do a visit, when we visit one another, like if someone puts out biscuits or something, and you really want the biscuits, because they give you a warning, Ted, before you leave the house. Yeah. Don't touch the biscuit, or I'll kill you. Right? and you're a kid, and you get there, and there's this massive tray of biscuits. And you're like, oh, and your mum says, don't even look at them, right? And you're like, fuck, I can't even look at them, right? But if you did go to grab them or whatever, the Italian stun gun was the pinch. Your mum would come in with that pinch under here, and mine came with a bonus optional twist, right? It was like that pinch. That would give you a pinch, just a little pinch. Did you get that? Did you get the pinch?
Yeah. Just under the arm and a twist. Yeah. And your arm goes back.
So was your mum Italian as well? Did you have both Italian parents?
No. My dad was Italian, but my grandmother was very Italian.
Yeah, right.
She was from the old country and spoke she talk like this, and it was, she was hardcore.
Yeah.
Italian.
Yeah.
Once in a while, not often, but once in a while.
You get the pinch.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's a stun gun. Yeah.
Joe, the name of your current tour is When I Was Your Age. Yeah. Is that indicative of a reinvention of sorts and an adjustment to a new audience demographic?
Yeah, so it's a bit of both, and it's also I kind of used it as a way to do research on becoming a dad myself now. So there's a lot of kids that come to the show, and I just felt that I needed to address that and to tell the kids. Because there's all these people who are like ours in the Generation X and who wanted to be able to teach their kids what the hell they went through, because it doesn't exist anymore. The tools that we have you can't use on kids today because it's a different world, right? As we all know. So I thought, let me try and package it all up and just teach the kids about what it was like to grow up in the 70s and the 80s, even in the 60s, I suppose. Even I wasn't around then, and yeah, it is. And what the interesting thing with this show is that. I've never done this before. I kind of became a comedian in this show. Now, I'm going to explain to you what I mean, because you probably think, what do you mean? You've been a comedian for 30 years. What I would do in the past would get old material, throw some out, put some new stuff, and blend it and keep on going. And get a bit of old, new, and just do that. With this particular show, I said, no, I'm going to start again. I scrapped everything out, got a blank piece of paper and started from scratch, and actually sat down and wrote a show, put it in an order, moved things around till I was happy. And I'm really proud to say that the show won Best Comedy Show of the Year, and I won Comedian of the Year.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
Congratulations.
And since we've seen each other. So that was I'm really proud of it because of the fact that I started again.
Yeah.
I threw everything out, started again, and I've gone, wow. It's almost like I can go, I actually can do this. Like I'm actually not bad at this. It's actually turned out well.
But what about your fans from our generation? Aren't they going, well, what about this joke and what about that joke?
No. I make sure that I cater for everybody. So it's done inside. Well, you guys will see. It's hard to describe. It's a monologue. I'm on there for an hour and almost an hour and 40 minutes, and it's a story, and it and it moves and it addresses everybody. So I take a look at the kids mainly. Then we're the sort of centerpiece because we are now parents, and we're looking back, and we've got to deal with our parents who've become grandparents who love the kids more than they love us, and we've got to deal with them, and and it's all this kind of stuff. And I also tackle other things, and I think this is why the show's also become popular, is because, and this is where it comes to when you say about our people, our generation, our generation have had enough. Have had jacked of this political correctness rubbish, and also the ridiculousness of some parts of the gender identity politics. Now, I'm going to be very careful because I don't want to dismiss the whole thing, because there are genuinely people who have gender dysmorphia, and and there are people who have genuine concerns. But there's this Like, and I say to the kids, we've got no problem with you kids being different. Just don't be ridiculous.
Yeah.
This is where we draw the line.
Right.
You know, don't tell me that men can have babies. They cannot have babies. Don't tell me that today you're a man and tomorrow you're a woman. No. You know, why are we even having the discussion, especially now in the Olympics, that biological males are playing in women's sport? Why? Where did we end up like this? It shouldn't even be.
You're preaching to the choir, and
you know,
and this is my take on it is that 1% because of, and I think that this social media has a lot to do with it. 1% of the people are making 99% of the noise. The other 99% are too afraid to say anything publicly. They'll talk amongst themselves, or we will talk amongst ourselves. But because no one will say anything publicly, that 1% gets to make the rules and set the agenda. It's ridiculous. And that's why we're where we're at.
And I addressed it in the show, and I said, this is a discussion that's happening behind closed doors amongst trusted friends. No one has this discussion in public.
Right.
And I talk about it in the show. I said, kids, be different, not a problem. But if you want to come out and identify as a rainbow trout, then please do that. I timed it well.
Brought a handkerchief.
I timed that well when he's taking a drink. If you want to identify as a rainbow trout, please do that behind closed doors because you're confusing my children, right? And that's where I draw the line. And why are kids learning about this? Because it's a permanent situation. You know,
did it become more front of mind for you after you had children, Joe?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
because
I get it.
I'm saying, why do my kids need to know about this? You know, you're not allowed to vote until you're 18. You're not allowed to drink. You're not allowed to drive until you're a certain age. Okay, why? And I think in this country, you can be 15 years old, go to the doctor and say, I feel like I'm a boy or a girl, and the doctor can transition you without consulting your parents. This is criminal. This is criminal. You should not be allowed to do it. Well, and, you know, and this is permanent. But, you know, and I've never said this ever, and I've always wanted to say this, and I thought, no, I don't know, where am I going to say this?
You're in the right place.
You're in the right place.
The ironic thing about transgender vaginas is that they're man-made.
Is that in the show?
No, I can't do that in my show. I've thought, what do I do with this gag? Should I just give it to Dave Chappelle because he can use it? Because I can't do that. Because even though it's not, even I don't swear, and I know that most of my audience will get that irony. My audience, there's a certain point when they go, no, okay, you're talking about genitalia, we don't want to hear that. We didn't come to bring our kids or our nonnas or our wives to hear that. So I don't draw the line. So where do I say that? So I've said it here. You guys are the first. This is I needed it to get it out on record.
It's a worldwide debut. Is what
there you go.
There you go.
Another thing I don't understand is, like, Bruce Jenner was a handsome, fit guy. Why would you go from being a handsome, fit guy to being an ugly, masculine woman?
I
don't understand.
No, I don't either. You'd have to ask Bruce.
Yeah, you'd have to ask Bruce, and I'm sure he has his.
Yes.
She has her. Oh, God. Oh, no. We've wandered into that field. Joe, one of the things that's interesting while we're talking about this is it's interesting that you say Dave Chappelle could do that. He could get away with that. What is that?
That's only because of my audience. Because my audience, no, they don't want to hear fuck. They don't want to hear me talking about religion and vaginas, and they know they can come. I'm like Bill Cosby without the Rohypnol.
Gotcha. Okay, sucks. Good on a resume.
How much, Joe, do you think has the?
I knew you'd like that one.
How much has the woke mind virus? Is that what?
Yeah, woke mind virus.
Is it Elon Musk that calls it that?
Yeah, woke mind virus.
How much has that infected or infiltrated the comedy community? Because sometimes if I say something edgy on social media, I'll get called out on it by comedians. Who should be the last people.
Yeah, I know. We're the last bastions of truth. You know, comedians are the only ones who it's our job to walk the fine line to say the things that everyone thinks, but no one has the guts to say. And this has been going on for thousands of years. That's what the court jester was. Okay, so why are we? So if you're a young comedian, here's a few interesting things. If you're a young comedian, and you're in the comedy stores or in trying out, you can't do accents. Like I can do an Italian accent.
Yeah.
I can do a Greek accent. I'm not allowed to do an Indian accent. I'm not allowed to do an Asian accent as a new comedian. Okay, because you can do a German accent. So now, now I can do a German accent. I can do a French accent, and it's Italian and a Greek. I can't do an Asian or an Indian because that seemed to be punching down.
Right.
Because it's directly proportional to the culture and what seems to, if that's a new culture, you know, that's arriving, right? And like we were the new culture back in our day, right? If the Italians have just come, we wouldn't be able to do a joke about Italians either, or an Italian accent, because it seemed to be punching down. So, you know, that's where it's going for the new comedians. When you have an established audience like I do, and I know what my people want. Look, sometimes, and you'll see, I go on a rant in a show, which you'll see tomorrow. Some people don't like it, and some people leave, and they say, "Oh, I've been watching you for years. I loved you. I now unfollow you." Right? You can't just go, "Oh, if 70% of the audience were doing that, sure." But you can't please everybody.
If you try to be everything to everyone, you'll be nothing to anyone.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've never pushed the envelope. In this show, I do.
Okay.
Because I know my audience, and I've had jack of it. You know, like, why should we not be able to say certain things? Why can't I do accents? Because I can actually do a plethora of accents, and I can do them well. Why aren't I allowed to do it? Because it seems to be punching down. So for new comics, it's hard.
Yeah.
There's a Canadian comic named Ben Bankus. I don't know if you know about him.
Right.
He does. He's an up and coming star, and he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
To him, he's like Norm Macdonald.
Yeah.
Yeah, Norm Macdonald's going, yeah.
Like Norm Macdonald used to say some outrageous
Yeah, I
things,
know.
but he was so likable.
Yes.
And his
So-
delivery was so good. And for him, funny was funny. And Ben Bankus is the same way. And he does that imitation of Toronto's mayor, Olivia Chow,
Right.
who's Chinese.
Yeah.
And he does this really thick Chinese
Yeah.
accent
Yeah.
with her. And it's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
But some people hate it.
Well, a lot of people scream racism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know
it's
what-
funny.
I know it's funny. It's you know, if it's funny because it's the time. Like, okay, am I a racist person? But you know, am I fundamentally a racist person? No, I'm just having a go. Why should I be able to take the piss out of being Italian and do that for 30 years, and all of a sudden I do one Asian joke?
Yeah.
Right. You've got to try and so I try and walk that line without crossing it, and I go there, and then I come back, and I go there, and I come back, as you'll see.
So is that would that be advice for new comedians? Don't punch down.
Well, you said, well, this is the problem, that if they get up to at the comedy club or whatever
Right.
it is, you know, the yucks or whatever you want to call it, and they're seen to be punching down, they won't give them a call back. They won't.
Yeah.
They come put their name down again. No.
Yeah. No.
Well, and so that's editing
Yes.
comedy, and
Yeah.
you should not be editing comedy. If you don't like it,
Don't go.
Don't go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
And a lot of it is in the writing, a lot of it is in the delivery, and Ben Bankus, people come out to see Ben Bankus, so clubs will book him.
Yeah.
I know that I know a few clubs have had to haven't had to, but they've chosen to cancel his shows because of
But he doesn't care.
complaints. He doesn't care.
No.
He does, and he's so funny.
Yep.
He does a bit about Sharia law and how great it would be if we had Sharia law.
Yeah, right.
He says, because if you're a white guy and you call the cops, your wife goes nuts on you and call the cops come and you go to jail.
Yeah.
He says, but with Sharia law, you call up Hamas, they send over 5 guys in the back of a white Toyota Tundra to beat the shit out of your wife. Now, I'm not doing it any justice. He delivers the joke way better than that. He fashions it and delivers it way. And the audience, the clip that I saw online in the club where he did that, he destroyed the audience. They loved it.
That's the kind of thing, though, that people seize on. That's the kind of thing that, you know, it's misogynist and it's this and it's that. And what people have lost touch with is context and subjectiveness.
Yes.
Humor is subjective.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
There were some comedians when I was a kid I didn't think they were funny because that wasn't my sense of humor.
Yep.
And now a comedian like Ben Bankus who walks on those steps on those landmines, it's not for everybody. And it may not make you laugh and you may be offended, but he should be able to do it.
Yeah.
And you know, ultimately, what happens when you get offended? Nothing.
Well, no, yeah.
It's not like you lose an eye.
Yeah.
You know,
but that's where
I got
we
offended
are.
and now I've got a tumor.
I have a line that I use when I'm asked to host comedy fundraisers sometimes, and I talk about exactly this, and I say, you know, it seems like you can't say anything these days without somebody getting offended. And I blame the Jews. And you know who laughs the hardest at that joke?
The Jews.
The Jews.
Yeah.
Because they get it.
Yeah.
They get the irony.
They get the irony.
You know?
And
They understand 3,000 years of being blamed for everything.
Yeah. If you are on a rant and you're on a racist rant
That's
and
a
you're
different
serious
thing.
about you know what you're saying, it's obvious.
Yeah.
And yet generally comedians are not that. They're not actually racist or sexist. They're actually, you know, like even the old vaudeville comedians who did those sort of misogynistic gags probably weren't actually misogynistic. They were just tapping into what goes on behind closed doors with guys.
And a lot of the stuff that is your material wouldn't be as funny without the Italian accent.
True. Yeah,
right?
there are some
when
bits,
you talk about your family and your parents and your father and you know all of that, to me it's I don't know, maybe because of my Italian background, it's enhanced by the accent.
Yeah, it is. But look, I just finished a whole run in England. I had people from Wales coming to the show. I had there was an Irish lady, and she goes, you know, this is what it was like to grow up in Ireland with an Irish family. Yeah. Because they did the same things. You know, my dad gave me a whack if I needed a whack. You know, my mum scared the hell out of me the way she looked at me. You know, it's just people can see in my show bits that they can relate to for themselves. Doesn't matter what culture. Right. I get a lot of Indians. I got a lot of Asians are coming. You know, everybody comes to the shows.
I would imagine must be a big population of the Indian community, the Asian community in Australia, I would imagine.
Yes.
Hey, Joe?
Yeah, that's big. I mean, the Indian community in the last few years have been the biggest immigrant group coming. In fact, not only, you know, all over. I mean, you know, with this show, I've gone to about 14 countries now, and I saw it. I've seen a lot of different things, you know, and I've seen the changes of the kind of people that are around. And there's a lot of, especially in Canada, there's a lot of Indians coming here. And because they genuinely just want to be out of India and want to work, you know, and
do better,
and they're doing the jobs that the Greeks and Italians used to do that don't want to do anymore because we're too good.
And they're doing comedy. Do you know Sugar Sammy?
Of course, I've heard of him. I've never met him.
Sammy's a sponsor of this podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
He's another
Sammy's like
supporter.
you. He's a comedian whose material is largely based in his ethnic roots, and he has the added layer
of the
as
French,
well of the French thing, and Sammy will
He
stomp
goes there
through some minefields.
He goes there, because he too had an immigrant experience, right? His parents came here, and it's a classic immigrant story. His father bought a dépanneur.
Right.
You know, it's like such a classic immigrant story, and a lot of his material, you know, started there. But now he's, I don't want to use the word sophisticated, but his interactions with the audience, his ability to tiptoe through the language minefield, especially here in Quebec, and even down in the States, some of the clips he's been posting from Dallas and Washington and Chicago and places where he's starting to build an audience in America. Same thing. He deals with Republicans. He deals with immigration. He talks about the wall, and you know, he's really brave. Not brave. Brave is the word. He's bold. He's bold
is a perfect word
and
for
he's funny as shit. He's so funny, and the shows, if you wait too long, they get sold out fast.
Yeah, by the time this podcast airs, Sammy's run of Montreal shows for September will be done, but you can still get tickets for some of the Quebec shows last week of September and shows in Gatineau. I believe there are tickets in Gatineau for the second week of October. So if you're in Montreal, that's not a bad little road trip. Why not an overnight road trip? Go see Sammy in Quebec City or Gatineau. SugarSammy.com is where you go for tickets.
All the information is there.
And he's a good-looking guy too, isn't he?
He's a very good-looking man and has done very well. And much like you, he's one of the kindest people we know.
Oh, great. Yeah.
You're also very handsome, Joe.
You are very handsome.
All right.
If I ever switch teams, I'd like you or Sammy to be my first.
You want me to be the goalie? What do you want me to be?
Hey, Joe, do you remember your first paying gig?
Yeah.
You do,
Oh,
eh?
absolutely. It was at the Comedy Store in Sydney.
Yeah.
And I was excited. It took me about 6 months to get my first paid gig. Look, I was lucky because, I don't know, so I was at university and I would make fun of lecturers. And so at university parties, I would get up and do old jokes, right? And so by the time I got to the Comedy Store for tryout night, I already had the confidence and I understood a little bit of the mechanics of telling a joke. And so then I realized what I've got to do. I went there and I thought, you don't tell old jokes. And I had a few old, like things in my head. And so I started by doing an old joke and then a bit of my material, an old joke and a bit of my material, and I'll finish on an old joke because you only have 5 minutes. And so I started getting laughs from the moment I hit the stage, which is rare.
Yeah.
But that kept me going. And I always say to new comedians, if you're on stage for 5 minutes and you only you might get one laugh out of that 5 minutes, you've actually got what it takes. You just now need to fill 90 of those 1 minutes.
Yeah.
And you'll have a show and work towards that. So
Do you remember what you were paid?
yeah, it was, I think it was $70 or something, you know. This is in 1998.
I'll bet you it's exactly the same today.
Yep.
Probably.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what, I did a stand-up set in 1990.
Yeah.
The first time I ever did stand-up comedy, I did about 5 minutes, and they paid me $25.
Yeah.
2 years ago, I was asked, "Can you come down to the such and such a club and do a set?" Sure. What's it pay? $25.
Really?
Yeah.
Like 30 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Your rate is more than $70
Yes,
now.
it's gone to 85 now, plus GST.
Ted and I we stumbled across the article about your house. Have you seen this article?
Yeah,
In the
right.
Daily Mail?
In the Daily Mail.
Oh, the Daily Mail.
Yeah, they made
Yeah.
a big deal about the house you're building and and it's this and it's
Is
that.
it built, Joe? Or
No,
are
no.
you-
It's still going to council now, so it gets hopefully approved by the end of the year. And then it'll take 2 to 2.5 years.
So
to
what are
build.
the pictures that we saw
Yeah.
online?
So they're called renders
Oh,
that
okay.
the architect does, so that now you can look at what you're building.
Yeah.
It's great. And when I get back home, there's a great program that it actually, you go to a warehouse and you get the plans and you walk through the plans.
Wow.
To make sure, this room is big enough.
Wow,
or no,
that's
we
so
can
cool.
move it. Yeah, there's so many more
Wow.
things you can do these days.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite part is the lap pool. His favorite part is the cantina.
Oh, right. Yeah, right.
Here's a guy who's spending like millions of dollars building this house with a pool indoors and this and that and this, and of course a place for the homemade salami. And prosciutto. I said, there's a guy who's kept his feet on the ground.
Yeah.
He's got to have a place for his parents.
Yes, my parents are coming down.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
And
in-laws as well.
Yeah.
We're all going to live together.
All going to live
Okay,
together.
so the home is in or near Melbourne,
Melbourne,
right?
Australia, yeah.
But you're from Sydney.
I'm from Sydney
Okay,
originally.
so
yeah.
your parents are going to move down from
That's
Sydney?
right. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it was my brother and I, and he passed away 5 years ago. So now it's just me, and our centre of vital statistics, as they say, is in Melbourne. My in-laws are there. We all live together now.
Lovely.
Actually, my in-laws were friends of mine before my wife's. That's how I met my wife.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So we get on famously well, and
Wow.
and I'm gone a lot. So
Yeah.
it's great for my son too to grow
Yeah.
up with Nonno and
Sure.
Nonno.
Yeah.
Well, my daughter, my eldest, Lauren, she
Yeah.
grew up. She's so proud of her Italian roots.
Yeah.
And when she was little, Nano and Nona were daycare.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
she speaks from growing up here. She speaks English, French, and Italian.
Oh, yeah.
Fluently trilingual.
And it can only be a good thing. It cannot be a bad
Absolutely.
thing. Especially when you're loving grandparents.
And don't be modest, Joe. In Australia, when you walk the streets, you get recognized.
Oh,
yes?
of course, yeah. Even here. But all over. I mean, in England, it happens. In America, it happens everywhere.
You're going to make your own wine?
I had my own wine many years ago. You mean like on a label? Or
Yeah. No. I meant like
in the garage.
jug.
Oh, in the garage. Why not? I've got the cantina. I've got to fill it up with something now,
And somebody's got to hose down the driveway.
Yeah.
Make statue grow. I remember that
Yeah, you
joke.
remember that gag?
That's a great gag.
It's true. Like, why do all the Italians? It's not only the Italians, the Greeks do it, the Lebanese.
Yeah.
You've got actually a big Lebanese community
Yes,
here.
we do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And you see, this is the thing back in the day in the 70s and 80s, because I'll talk about it in the show. Because there's another thing. People complain that I'm perpetuating stereotypes. Now, here's something, you know, there's a reason why there's stereotypes. A stereotype is a characteristic repeated over and over about a particular culture, and that's how we learn. You know, like in the Greeks and Italians in the 70s and 80s.
Yes.
You know, what are the top 3 stereotypical things about Italians? Number 1, we love cash. Right?
Yeah.
No one's going to complain about that.
Yep.
Number 2, more than cash, we loved concrete. Right?
It's true.
And in, I don't know in here, but in Australia in the 70s and 80s, every Greek and Italian guy had a bad back and went on compensation, right? So that's what we did in the 70s and 80s. And now the Lebanese have taken over, you know, and they're still world champions today at the compensation. I don't know if it's the same here, but that's what it's like in Australia. So why can't we do stereotypes?
Yeah.
That's essentially. It's not about even about everything. You know, the gay stereotypes. There's stereotypes with the munja cakes.
Yeah,
you know, it's you know, like we say, you know, with the Canadians, you know, like a friend of mine's got this great guy. His name's Gabriel Rossi. He goes, he was married to an Aussie, and she goes, well, why are we going to see your parents? Didn't we see them last year?
We're going because it's Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday. You know what I mean? So there's the stereotype of the Anglos visiting each other not very often.
Yeah.
You know, it's everywhere. There's stereotypes.
And
big deal.
It used to that used to be called taking the piss.
Taking the piss.
Why can't you do that?
Because it's hateful.
It isn't hateful.
I know it's I'm being facetious.
Yeah,
I know
the
we are
thing.
hateful.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. When I take the piss out of being Italians, you know who gets upset? Not the Italians.
No.
It's the Anglos.
Yes.
Oh, you can't do that.
Well, it's like
not?
my joke about the Jews.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
The Jews
Yeah.
love it.
Jews love it.
Yeah.
It's like this.
Yeah.
Italians talk with their hands, and they do this. I don't know why they do this with the fingertips together.
Yeah.
And that
means something. When you go to Italy, that's actually a legitimate answer.
Yeah. It's
Like
actually,
when someone goes, how much does that cost? There's a measure. That depends on how much you do, and you know that means something. You know.
yeah. There's nothing more fun than watching an Italian guy, you know, not snap, but get pissed.
They lose it. They lose it. And you know, and having been in Italy now, you see the hand gestures and the police taking their time with it's just they look good. You know, like there's a sign in Italy called vietato fumare. You're not allowed to smoke.
Yes.
You know, and here is this Italian policeman with a cigarette in his hand, smoking, telling people, hey. You're not allowed to smoke here. Non fumare qui. Like this, holding the cigarette in his hand. È vietato fumare qui, hey. Bro, it's for real. You know?
But there's something. I mean, you know this about the Italian. There's just something about the Italian culture. You know, like, and I don't know if people make fun of this or not, but the way they live their life, sleeping in the afternoon, eating late. Going for a stroll after dinner. Yeah. Nobody wears running shoes. The Italian men all look like they walked out of a GQ magazine.
Yeah, I know.
Like it's a lifestyle that's just so appealing.
I know. And here's a mistake that a lot of people make when they go to Italy is if you're going to go to Italy and you don't live in Italy, don't buy crimson or yellow pants and bring them to North America and wear them here because you're going to look like a dickhead, okay? Pink and yellow, canary yellow pants look good on really skinny Italian guys in Italy.
Yes.
Leave it there.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't bring that down. Okay? It's just the way that they go. And here's another thing. I mean, like, you know, all these guys walking arm in arm. If you guys were walking arm in arm up and down Little Italy, someone would yell at you. You know what I mean? There it's... And I love how Italians, when they walk and they talk, they walk and then they got to stop. They got to say something. You know, they can't keep the conversation. Can't keep walking and talking. They can't do that. They got to stop, When they say something, look at you,
Yeah.
and then keep on going.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
They all have, and I think you have one today, Joe. You brought one today. Handbags.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
When I was in
yeah.
Sicily a few years ago, even the hobos had handbags. Yeah.
Did you get that in Italy?
I don't know. It's a Gucci thing, so
Wow, look at that.
I would have got it from somewhere. But my grandfather had a borsellino, they call it borsellino, little man bag, you know. and it's-
I'm curious, Joe. You're such a good family man, and obviously close with your family. And I'm wondering about the transformation from. I don't want to poke my nose where it doesn't belong, but like I saw a picture of you on an airplane with your mom and dad.
Yep.
And your mom and dad were traveling with
Yep.
you, and your mom and dad were traveling up front with you.
Yep.
And there must be. Do you feel that kind of joy that you have the ability to treat them and take them and give them experiences that they would have never had when you were growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's another reason because of that. You see, my brother was sick from when he was 6 years old. So he had kidney failure for 37 years. He had 3 transplants. My mum gave him his first kidney transplant. You know, so they spent the majority of their life looking after him.
Yeah.
Right? So he said to me before he left, he said, you know, make sure that when I'm not here that you take mum and dad around. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
Right. And then they come and see my daughter here in Canada. So what you saw was that. So it was just now. It was in July.
Yeah.
So I brought him over to Canada. We hung out with my daughter for a little bit, and then my wife and my son went to Italy, and my parents and I all flew over and met my wife and my son over in Italy, and I brought them all around, and I made sure because they just didn't get a chance.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to leave my brother,
No.
you know, the way he was, and go traveling. They didn't do that.
Yeah.
So now that he's not here, you know, and I'm sort of fulfilling his wish. But yes.
You have the means.
I have the means to
make
do
it special.
Yes, for that.
That's what I'm saying.
You know.
It's something that resonates with me because I was able to, you know, my parents came from a very, very modest background, and when I made a little bit of money, I was able to, you know, either send them places or do things. Yeah. And it meant the world to them, and it meant the world to me.
And that's the way I look
and
at it too.
that's the vibe I got.
Yeah.
You know, from you traveling with your mom and dad.
We should send Joe to Robert Richer Jewelers. This is another segue to a sponsor.
All right.
We have friends who run a jewelry store in Dorval called Robert Richer Jewelers who've come on board as sponsors of the podcast. And Pierre, who is their resident gemologist, twice a year goes to the diamond factories in Antwerp.
Right.
Which is a big deal. Like you have to get invited. Not just anybody can knock on the door and go into the diamond factories in Antwerp. And Pierre gets invited. He goes twice a year, and he's going next month. So maybe if you wanted to buy Mrs. Avati something nice for Christmas, while you're in town, you could go out to Robert Richer Jewelers and speak with Pierre. They'll design it for you.
Yeah.
They'll help you pick the stone.
And we always talk about this. We've been talking about this on the radio and now on our podcast. We love family businesses. We love families that run small businesses that are still working at it, still going at it. They've been there for 72 years, I think.
72 years.
Right, in the same place.
Yeah.
And you walk in, and when you walk into the store, you know right away you're in a family business.
Yeah.
You get a warm welcome. And
as Terry says, you're not intimidated. Yeah. It's not intimidating.
I was saying when I was a kid,
store.
I used to be intimidated to go into a jewelry store because I felt like I didn't belong there because I couldn't buy anything. You know what I mean? And that's not these people. These people will help you. You know, whether it's you want to get something for your first prom date, you know, or you've been married 25 years and you want to get something very, very special, they can help you with that too. Yeah. And they're kind and welcoming and really, really lovely people. And they can accommodate almost any budget, and they can design something for you too, which is great.
Yeah, or if you want to get something for your kumari on the side.
There's that. You know, there's that. I'm sure they can accommodate that.
But, you know,
Joe, you've got, for people who aren't watching on YouTube, you've got some jewelry going on there.
Yeah. I like, you know.
What have you got?
Oh, I don't.
You're not a bling guy, though, I don't think.
No, it's
right?
not bling at all. It's actually quite subtle. Yeah. And you don't have anything on your face or your head. Yeah. It's on your arm and your fingers and your wrist.
This, I wanted to ask you about this, but it's none of my business, huh?
It's it's
a nice watch.
It's a nice watch.
It's a nice watch.
You gotta, look, it's good to be able to do this and travel. You got to buy yourself something. You got to gift yourself something if you can.
Absolutely.
This is a question I love to ask people, and maybe I've asked you 30 years ago. I don't remember. Do you remember the first time where you made a really good payday and you thought, okay, now I'm going to buy that thing?
Yes, I did. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
it was here. It was actually here in Montreal.
Wow.
Because back in those days we would finish the tour in Montreal because it's such a party town.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we do all the rest of the country and go, right, okay, we've done it.
Yeah.
Now let's just let out here. And I'd come and do 15 shows. I'd be here for the whole month.
Yeah.
Right? And so this was in 2001. And I went to the bank. It was the Royal Bank of Canada. I'm going to say somewhere, because we were staying on Sherbrooke, and there was a street that sort of goes up to the sort of mountain, but it's sort of, we were staying in this apartment.
Peel? Was it Peel?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Am I right? Peel and Sherbrooke?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was in the apartment. We got all the checks. I had all the checks with me.
That's
I didn't
checks,
bank any.
not chicks?
No, checks.
Checks.
Yeah,
Okay.
checks were waiting. Right?
Checks from the tour.
Yeah, checks
Right.
from the tour. Right. and geez, I had a good time those days.
Yeah.
Jeez, I had a good- Anyway,
So did we.
So I had not banked anything. So it's interesting that you asked this story, because so here I am. I get all the checks. I go down to the Royal Bank of Canada on corner of Sherbrooke and Rio Peel.
Yeah.
I suppose if you look it up, it would have been somewhere around there.
Yeah.
This is 2001. I put all the money in the bank. They gave me the it says how much money, and I went, wow. Right, and I was like, wow. So I always wanted. I said to myself, when I become a millionaire, I'm going to buy myself a Rolex watch, and so that's what I went and did. Right, and there you go. And I probably could have afforded it before.
Yeah.
Right, but I said no.
But you wait.
I said I'm going to wait until I was 27 years old.
Wow, good for you, man.
And
Wow.
I'll never forget that. Interesting that you say that. It was right here in this city.
It's interesting because there's something about guys on a Rolex watch.
Yeah.
This.
Well, that's the brand,
I wasn't a millionaire, but the same thing happened to me at one point.
Yeah.
I had a little bit of money, and that's what I did. Although I bought mine on time. On payments, I didn't.
Oh right, I didn't know what you meant by then. Because of buying a watch on time.
Yeah, like
not because of the wordplay there. I wasn't sure. Yeah, and I was in Toronto, and it was in 2001.
so cool.
I've still got it.
Yeah.
You know what?
Do you really? Eh? You carried around? That's very cool. What? So that was 2001. Let me see.
That's it.
Yeah,
there.
yeah. That's so cool. I love this story.
So that's the one you bought?
That's exactly that watch.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where did you buy it, Joe?
Somewhere in
downtown?
Woodbridge or somewhere,
In Toronto.
In Toronto, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wood the Bridge.
Wood the Bridge.
With the bridge.
Yeah. Wood the Bridge.
That's such a cool story. Because I'm always curious about that, because that's one of the joys about hitting that level of success where you go, holy shit, I can do this now.
Yeah. But like we haven't lost our head over the time. We've always been it's important to sort of because it's very easy to go, oh yeah, great, there's all this money coming in, and then just spend it all, and then of course it's what we do. You have to come up with funny shit. It's not like oh yeah, I got a car dealership, and as long as I keep on bringing the latest cars, there's people to buy them, and away we go. I have to invent stuff. I have to come up with shit. Every year or every couple of years, you know, and truth be told, I did get lazy. I got lazy for about 10 years.
Did you?
And it hurt me. I started living a rock star. I just, money was there, and I lived a rock star lifestyle, and I kept on. I didn't pay attention to my craft, and as a result, it hurt me. It hurt me because people would say, same old shit. I went to see him 3 years ago, and he came and did most of those same jokes, a couple of new jokes. That's what I was saying. I threw all that vibe out. I said, no, I'm not doing that anymore. I can't.
What made you wake up to that, Joe?
Probably my wife's, taste in jewelry.
Okay, good point.
So, what was that guy that you were talking about? Can you give me his number?
Robert Richer Jewelers, Joe, 309 Dorval Avenue in Dorval.
So I thought,
Do you think that comes with age, Joe? You get a little more mature, and you go, hang on a second.
Yeah, because I was living a good life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can't keep on doing that.
No.
You get to a certain age, and you go, okay. I got to stop. You know, it was probably when I first had my daughter because I thought, you know what, I don't want my daughter because of the era. What happened was this: I was out one night, you know, I was having at the bar, having a drink, and it wasn't anything exaggerated, but there was a group of girls in front of me, and they were having a photo, and I don't know why I was looking, and I realised that the girl taking the photo was telling the other girls who were in a huddle to move a little bit. So they weren't having a photo because they wanted a photo. They were having a photo to take a picture of me at the bar drinking.
Okay. Yeah.
And I thought, imagine if I was in a compromised situation here. Yeah. Right? And I don't want my daughter to grow up seeing, you know, because in this day and age you can see all sorts of stuff, you know, and it's permanent.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like you got to go through someone's photo album to get it. You know?
The internet's forever.
Yeah, it's forever. Yeah. And so I thought, I don't want my daughter to, you know, to see her dad, you know, like not that I was a drunk or anything.
No.
But you're at the bar having a drink, an innocent drink.
Yeah.
People misconstrue that. And so I stopped going out. Yeah. And then, you know, as you get older, you can't keep on living that life.
And having kids changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the other thing. As you get older, it's a little longer to get out of bed the next morning, and you move a lot slower, and it hurts a lot longer. And you think to yourself, Christ, what am I doing?
You start making noises when you get out of bed, like, like where did that come from?
We've got a buddy of ours, our buddy Blair, who says, you know you're getting on when you make the sit-down noise?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And the get-up noise.
Yeah. I used to make that noise getting in bed. And now it's, I can get out of bed.
By the way, we should mention that Joe is doing shows this coming weekend, but you're listening to this podcast after Joe's gone home.
Yeah, by the time.
So we're not helping.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Well, you know what? You can go.
When does this air? This is
going to be on
Tuesday.
Wednesday.
Oh, next week.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Wow.
Wednesday the 24th.
Yeah.
Well, look, it's a podcast, so there's no limit, right? This is going to go out everywhere.
Well, it'll be. That's what we tell our sponsors. Your commercials are there forever.
Forever, yeah.
It never goes away.
I'm on. You know, it's a 37-date North American tour.
Yeah, you're going to be in Southern Ontario all next month, right?
All next month.
Why do you sell out Richmond Hill all the time? Like you can't get tickets for Love Nor Money in Richmond Hill. You can go to London, you can go to Guelph, you can go to Toronto. There are still tickets in Toronto.
Yeah, there's
Richmond Hill. Yeah. Is that near Wood the Bridge?
Not far, I think. You know? I was actually thinking of building a theatre in Woodbridge. Staying there for a month. Build a room upstairs. I'll just sleep in there. I'll come down and do my show. Yeah.
Are there noticeable differences in the Italian communities in Canada, like from one city to the next, from Montreal to Toronto to Hamilton?
Yeah, a little bit. The Toronto Italians have got that real business thing about them. There's just this air of people are rushing around.
That's just Toronto.
Yeah,
I think everybody's like that in Toronto, Italian or not.
Look, you know, I'll stick my neck out here, and I'm pretty sure. I mean, obviously, it's an anecdotal observation or statement I'm about to make, but I'm sure I can back it up. I think. I'm not sure if you guys use the word reckon. You know what I'm.
We do. Yeah, we do.
I have been to every town in this country where there are Italians. More than I know people in Toronto who've never been to Vancouver. I've been to Vancouver. I've been to Kamloops. You know, I've been to places. You know, Thunder Bay, North Bay, Sault Ste. Marie, Sudbury, little towns. I can't even remember. I've been to every place where there are Italians in this entire country.
Are there Italians in North Bay? Wow.
Absolutely there are.
Yeah, you're doing a show
everywhere.
Yeah, I'm doing a show.
Wow.
There'll probably be 250 people at the show.
Wow.
You know, and for someone like me who doesn't have to bring a band and when it's just me, the microphone, you know, it's you can do it.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
It's worthwhile. So I will do those shows. I will do a show to 180 people.
Yeah.
And in fact, I love those shows because I feel like I'm just in a lounge room talking with my cousins. And that's when I can actually let go and actually write material by doing that.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you mind the coverage? We were talking about what we saw, I think it was at The Guardian, pictures of your house and speculation about the money you're spending and, you know, what you're going to have a cold plunge pool. Yeah. I can ask you about that.
Yeah.
Do you do the cold plunge thing?
Yeah, I love it.
You do, eh?
See, the reason, well, it gives me, it's a great feeling.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, where I stay in Old Montreal, one of my favourite spas is down in Old Montreal because you can go from the steam
into
sauna into a cold plunge.
Pool, yeah. But my question is, as you become, you got more and more famous.
Yeah.
That scrutiny of your like your house is a personal thing. Does it bother you?
No,
it doesn't.
Doesn't bother me. No,
Good for you.
like
Good for you.
In fact, look, the last home that I built won the 4th coolest home in Australia.
Wow.
Right? So
That's
this
cool.
one, there's a lot of people looking at it and seeing what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, because I spend, why I'm building a house and just didn't buy one is because I looked around and couldn't find a house that had everything
that you
I
wanted. Yeah.
So I thought, you know what? I'm going to have a commercial kitchen in this one.
Yeah.
We've got the hot, cold plunge with the steam, the sauna, the lap pool. Like in Melbourne, it's cold. So why have a pool outside? It's stupid.
Yeah.
So we have
It's
it
cold in Melbourne?
It can get cold, yeah. Like it's cold now. It's actually colder now.
Winter there, isn't it?
Well, we're out of winter.
Well, you're moving into
that's
spring.
right. Oh, yeah.
You're moving into spring.
Yeah.
And then my wife said with jacket, with a jacket on, so it does get cold, not as cold as here, obviously. So I thought, but I'm also designing homes with a wellness capacity to it. And just like Greg Norman designs golf courses, I'm getting into designing interiors and
cool.
vibes for people's homes.
That's very cool.
Just as a little side
And
thing.
when you plan a tour, Joe, do you talk to your wife and say, okay, next year I'm going to leave in April and I'll be back in November?
Now we have to do it.
You do,
Back
eh?
in the day, I used to leave for 9 months, right?
Louise.
Last year I was gone 4 months. This year 5 months from Australia.
And do you have people plan that for you, or do you say, I want to be in Montreal for 5 nights?
So we have to work around it. So basically, my wife comes in where there's a lot of where we can base ourselves either in London or in Italy or somewhere where we can call base home base
camp,
base camp for at least a week to 10 days.
Yeah.
Because now the schedule, if you look at the North American schedule, it is just so full on. There's no way you can bring her and the little guy, Look, it's bad enough with the little guy. I can't expect her to get on a plane and be in Boston one night, Philadelphia the next night, Chicago the next night. You can't. Yeah. It's ridiculous. So I plan the tours around that. So we kind of figure out with the tour, the managers and the tour, the people who put the shows together, say this is the chunk that we need to do like this because he's got school holidays here. My daughter's got school holidays here. So we have to get everything aligned.
Yeah. Boston's got a lot of Italians.
Oh, yeah. So
it must be a lot of. You must have a lot of fun in Boston.
Yeah. Boston's a great. I think Boston has, apart from Melbourne, the best Little Italy in the world.
Yeah,
really.
Right?
Yeah, the food is spectacular.
Fantastic.
Right?
Yep.
Do you cook at home? Do you
Absolutely?
You do, eh?
Yeah. And that's why with the house we're going to do a commercial kitchen. We've got the show kitchen, of course. Because every Italian house has to have the show kitchen.
I was going to ask if you're going to put plastic on the couch.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I won't put it on. I just won't take it off when it comes from.
Is the show kitchen is the upstairs kitchen that you don't actually use, right?
In Australia, we've got it next to it. So it's here you got it upstairs and downstairs, right? In Australia, we actually the second kitchen is a lot of the time in the garage.
Oh,
yeah. So they don't put the car in there.
Yeah.
The only oil in that garage is from the cooking. It's not from the car, right?
Does your mum still cook?
Yeah. My mum cooks, but my mother-in-law is a great cook.
Yeah, is that
and
right?
we cook together with my mother-in-law. So we're doing that, and I'm also building a parrilla oven outside because I like to cook with heat, cold.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sundays at your house must be unbelievable.
Yeah,
eh?
when I'm there.
When you're there,
yeah.
It's the big pot.
I
and
love
stove.
entertaining. I like to. I mean, apart from.
Well, don't be surprised when we show up.
Yeah.
You guys,
ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong.
Have you been to Australia?
Never been. No.
Yeah, right.
No.
Yeah.
It's a good country to visit.
Yeah, Saint Louis.
It is.
Yeah, it's a little bit far.
Yeah.
Just before we wrap up, we have to say hi to our friends at Merson's.
Yeah, I don't know how
family business.
I don't know how to segue into this with Joe though, because you don't need winter tires, do you? You don't need snow tires, do you?
No.
Yeah.
No.
What kind of car do you drive, Joe?
A Mercedes.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Merson's can look after that.
Persons can look after that. They can look after your Tesla, whether you're driving internal combustion or electrical. Merson's mechanics are trained in all of the above. They have the equipment to take care of all of the above. But, of course, tires are their specialty, and it's this time of the year that you want to book sooner rather than later to get your winter tires changed. If you need new winter tires, they're having the Yokohama sale coming up. Actually, they're right in the middle of it right now.
Yes.
Go now.
Yeah.
And take advantage of good deals on Yokohama tires all through the month of September as well. 20% off winter tire changes and 10% off in October. So obviously the sooner you go, the more you're going to save. Make sure you get your car inspected and tuned up as well because, as Joe said, the winters here can be absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
And you want to have your car in good running order and you want to have good snow tires on it. The Mersons will take care of you on all of those counts.
They've been partners with Yokohama for a long time. You
Yeah.
can get some great deals right now. So
Yeah, I'm
head
getting
on
some.
down. Are you?
Yeah, I'll be there
time?
this week. Yeah. They looked at my tires the other day and said, no.
Yeah. Well,
and they're not just selling me a bill of goods either.
that's
That's
the other
another
thing
thing
about
about the
them.
Mersons.
Yeah.
If my tires were good for another season,
They'd tell you.
and that's what they told me last
Yep.
year. They said, well, they're getting there, but you should be able to
Yep.
get one more season out
Yeah.
of them.
And now the jig is up.
Yep.
You gotta get the tires. Yeah. That's the Mersons, just past the corner of St. Jacques and Cavendish. Again, longtime family business. That's been friends of ours for a very, very long time.
Got a note from somebody this week who said they really enjoyed the podcast last week and they called the Mersons and made their winter tire appointment.
Excellent.
So there you go. 514-487-5545.
Joe?
It's incredible how, like, I'm listening to you guys talking about these tires and how people have to change them. Like, that's something that we've never
had.
ever had
Yeah.
Really, eh?
in Australia.
And you know,
like-
here it's a law, Joe. You have to
Yeah.
have the cops will pull you over as of December.
How do you know what does a winter
Well,
tire looks like? It's got a jumper on it, or a jacket. What's a
And a
winter
carrot
tire?
for a nose.
No,
Yeah, right.
they're thicker. You look at them and you can tell
The
right
treads.
away.
You can
The
tell from the
treads are thicker to chew on the snow.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I just got
December
back from
15th.
BC. So
I believe it's
December
December
15th
15th.
to March. Matthew, what is it? Oh, maybe it is. Maybe they moved it back.
Anyway, there's a deadline. If you don't have your winter tires on and you
So
get pulled over,
everyone
they'll
has
write
to
you a
go and
ticket.
change their
Yes,
tires.
yes.
Yeah.
Fuck,
Yeah,
that's
it's great.
unbelievable.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
good for business.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about
But
that.
we have to worry about crocodiles and sharks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's-
and spiders and
Spiders and
snakes.
snakes and-
yeah, it's.
Oh, speaking of which,
okay.
I did every week on the show, Joe, we do something called the tweet sheet where I find 3 things that I think are going to make Terry laugh off of Twitter. And so I curated an Australia-themed tweet sheet for this week.
All right.
With you in mind. And so
Okay.
Matthew's gonna bring those up on the screen for us.
What is? Okay,
We've got this
here we
one
go.
from @afraid of wasps. In Australia, the toilets flush the other way. You press the handle, and they just blast you with piss and shit. Australians like that sort of thing.
It's true, they do flush the other way. And the water is down here.
Yeah. Is
So,
it?
so when you do a turd, is that what you call it, a turd?
Yeah, sure.
It's gone. It disappears. It's not like here. You go, what the fuck? What is that? Like here, you can look at it and you go, oh, wow, geez, I need to eat more fibre. You know what I mean?
Are you offended by that, Joe?
No, of course not.
I didn't think he would be. What else have we got, Matthew? From @Glennie Raj. Music fact. Australian singer-songwriter Sia has a younger sister called Wouldn't Want to Be Ya. That's a dad joke.
That's a dad joke, but it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not
Wouldn't
bad
want to
at
be
all.
a. That's Aboriginal for my older sister.
And this one's a screenshot. I couldn't actually find it on Twitter, but I found a screenshot of it.
Excuse me.
I don't even know if I can see that far.
You want me to read
from
it?
From Doggo. Yeah, you
Okay.
read this actually
There you go.
because it's going to work with your accent.
Yeah.
Regular person. Where do you live? Melbourne. What? Melbourne. 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 Are you trying to say Melbourne? Melbourne.
Melbourne. MELBN. Is that how they say it in Melbourne? They say
Melbourne. We cut
Melbourne.
off words in Australia. We
Yeah.
make
Is that
sure.
right?
Yeah. Instead
Yeah.
of mosquito, it's mozzie.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we do all that kind of stuff.
Is that a like a myth that like at your house, like you know when you're home,
Yeah.
do you have to watch for spiders and shit?
No, well,
not in the big cities,
No,
right?
not a big city. Like, okay, so if you live in an area where there's a lot of dampness,
Yeah.
right, you will, if you start digging, that's
Yeah.
where funnel web spiders like to live in damp places,
Right.
or where there's a lot of white.
Right.
So if you live in those areas, sometimes you have to check your sheets.
Yeah.
But generally, you don't just get snakes and kangaroos just jumping around everywhere. It's just
But they say there are more living things that can kill you in Australia than anywhere else in the world.
And will a kangaroo kick the shit out of you?
If you absolutely,
it will,
because what it can do. See, the tail of the kangaroo is just a lot of sinew. Muscle, right? And so what they can do is they jump up.
Yeah.
They do this with dogs. They'll jump up and with their tail, they'll bring the tail underneath, and they can split a man in half.
No shit.
With that tail, because it is basically like a thick, like imagine that sort of thick.
Wow.
Just complete rubber, like it's protein muscle.
Wow.
Right, and there's power, and they'll punch on.
Yeah.
That's what they call them, the punching kangaroos.
Yeah, I've seen videos of them, like they put their dukes on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you see one, you give them a wide berth?
Yeah.
Stay away?
Stay away.
Yeah.
But where they cause a lot of damage is on the road, because, so you're driving, and if you're not used to seeing kangaroos, all of a sudden it's in front of you. What do you do? Naturally, you swerve. You go off the road, hit a tree, or hitting a big kangaroo at a certain speed is like hitting a brick wall.
Yeah.
Like a little brick wall. And it'll just, the car will then veer off.
Yeah.
It'll veer you into the other side on an oncoming, and it's
kind of the same thing here. Like if you
with deer and
deer and moose and stuff. When you get up towards North Bay, Thunder Bay, and those areas, you have to be really, really careful.
Yeah.
New Brunswick too, I think.
Yeah,
if I'm not mistaken. Joe, you've been so kind. I can't thank you enough.
You don't have to thank me at all, guys.
Well, listen,
the things that you guys have done for me over the years has been it's tremendous.
All we did was had an open door for you because you're kind and you're warm and you're funny and you're decent, and we just you're one of our.
And we want a place to stay in Australia.
Yeah, you're one of our favorite. One of our favorite people in the world, and it, when you're on the road and you've got lots to do, I'm deeply appreciative of you taking
I've been
the time.
looking forward to this chat for a long time.
Yeah,
I've been wanting to do that transgender joke, and I wasn't sure. This is it.
And if you happen to be listening to the podcast in other parts of the country, Google Joe Avati.
Yeah, Joe's got shows coming up. What's your website? Is it joeavati.com?
Joeavati.com.
Yeah, Joe's got shows coming up in Southern Ontario. Are you going west from there, Joe?
No, because I did it all last year. I did Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Vancouver,
Where can people find you online if they want to watch? Do you have any online specials?
It's all YouTube, Instagram.
You're everywhere.
Facebook, we put longer clips on, TikTok shorter, Instagram somewhere.
I was going to say, now you're on the TikTok.
TikTok, that's right, TikTok.
By the way, again, if you want to contact Ted and I, standingbythepodcast@gmail.com. We'll get some of those notes next week. My thanks to Matthew. My thanks to our co-executive producer, Jessica Dion, who also happens to be my wife, and our podfathers, Mike Ward and Pantelis. Did I say thank you to Matthew?
Thank you, Matthew.
That was about an hour ago, wasn't it? Yeah. Joe?
Thank you, guys.
Molto grazie.
Grazie per averti qui per oggi per fare questo podcast.
Yes.
I couldn't eat another bite.
Yes.
Standing By, the Terry and Ted podcast has been brought to you by the UPS Store Canada, delivering full-service solutions for your small business.